put him out of business. I'm in the Oval Office, and we're in a fight against the worst congressman in the history of our country. His name is Thomas Massie. He's from Kentucky. I hope you're going to put him out of business. He is so bad. Massie's the worst congressman in the history of our country, always voting against Republicans and good values. So get rid of Thomas Massie.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So what we have is one of the most crucial primaries taking place that will ultimately determine the future of the Republican Party. And President Trump is making it clear that Thomas Massie, that a lot of people call a RINO, must be defeated at all costs, because this will send a clear message to the rest of the Republican Party to get in line with the MAGA agenda or the America First agenda, or be voted out of office. And here we have President Trump with one last message to the voters of Kentucky to vote out Thomas Massie and vote for Ed Gelrain, who is the replacement for Thomas Massie. Play clip.
I'll be doing hopefully a very powerful tele-rally tonight for a friend of mine, Ed Gelrain, who is a fantastic man, a fantastic hero, war hero, farmer from Kentucky. He's running against the worst congressman, in my opinion, worst Republican congressman in the history of our country. The guy's a total disaster, and you know who it is. Thomas Massie. He's the worst. So we have to get out and vote. We have to make sure that Ed gets there. I mean, Ed left the Republican Party because he couldn't stand Massie, couldn't stand watching him, couldn't stand how disloyal he was to your president. He left the Republican Party, but he came back, and he came back strong. He couldn't stand Massie, and neither can I. A bad guy. So get out and vote. Thanks a lot. Bye.
That was President Trump making it crystal clear that Thomas Massie, he has to go. And the president and his supporters has been sparing no expense at ensuring that Thomas Massie is defeated in this primary. Because for one, Thomas Massie, he actually voted against the One Big Beautiful Bill. The same bill that allowed for no tax on tips, Thomas Massie actually voted against it, and the president is pretty upset at that. And the second thing, Thomas Massie was one of the Republicans who led the effort to force the release of the Epstein files, which I fully support. But Thomas Massie has been opposing the president on a lot of things that the president is trying to do. For instance, the war in Iran. Thomas Massie opposed the war, and he tried to limit the president and the War Powers Act. A lot of people, they're arguing that Thomas Massie is a principled person, but a lot of people, they're arguing that he's an obstructionist, which is one of the reasons why the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, went over to Kentucky to campaign against Thomas Massie to call him an obstructionist. Play clip.
With what we've gotten from Tom Massie. At some point, being against everything becomes an excuse for accomplishing nothing. At some point, constant obstruction is not leadership, it's just commentary. It's obstruction. President Trump does not need more people in Washington who are trying to make a point, especially from his own party. He needs people willing to help him win, to vote with him when it matters the most. And too often, Thomas Massie has acted like his job is to stand apart from the movement that President Trump leads instead of strengthening it. When President Trump needs backup, Massie wants to debate process. When the movement needs unity, especially at the biggest moments, Massie's willing to vote with Democrats. When conservatives are fighting the most radical left in American history, too often Massie's instinct is to throw elbows at fellow Republicans.
That was Pete Hegseth making it clear that Thomas Massie isn't the man for the job currently, especially when it comes to the MAGA movement and the America First movement. And while I can sympathize with some of the stance that Thomas Massie be taking, like he's a fiscal conservative, I would classify myself as such. Oftentimes what the movement needs is someone that will compromise and get the job done, especially if they're going to stand with Democrats when it doesn't benefit the people. I just cannot get around to support that. And here we have Stephen Miller. I believe he's in Kentucky right now campaigning, but here's Stephen Miller torching Thomas Massie. Play clip.
Stephen Miller here to talk with you about a very important subject, which is how Tom Massie betrayed America, betrayed you, and betrayed your children. The single most important issue affecting the future of our country is ending the mass third world invasion of America and reversing that invasion. And on the most important issue, on the most important vote, on the most important bill, on the most important day, Tom Massie sided with every House Democrat, every Senate Democrat, Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer against President Trump, against the American people, and against you and your family. When the time came to vote for President Trump's signature border security and immigration enforcement bill, the bill to provide record funding for ICE and Border Patrol and mass deportation, Tom Massie voted no. Tom Massie voted to kill the bill. Tom Massie sided with the House and Senate Democrats over the sovereignty of this republic. I personally called Tom Massie and I said, Tom, this is the most important vote of your life and career. This is the vote to reverse the invasion of America. We need your vote. We need your support. And Tom Massie said we can all pound sand. He voted against Trump. He voted against the American people. He voted against you. He voted to kill the most important bill of his career.
That was Stephen Miller torching Thomas Massie, and this is to show you that the administration, they're not sparing any expense when it comes to defeating Thomas Massie, because he's been a thorn in the side of the administration, and it's looking more and more as if Thomas Massie is about to lose that primary, because here we have a poll where CNN broke down the latest numbers. Take a look.
To put it mildly, I don't think that Donald Trump likes Thomas Massie. Yeah. And if you look at the prediction markets, it looks like they may get their man. They may get their man. Look at this. Chance that Massie is, in fact, the Kentucky 4 GOP nominee. It has been falling considerably over the last 10 days, according to the cash prediction market. Look at this. It was 71% 10 days ago. Look where that number is now. It's 44%. So chances more likely than not, though it is very close, that Massie will, in fact, go down to defeat. But again, we're just going to have to wait and see the votes getting cast and counted, because this is quite close. But any time that an incumbent member of Congress goes down, he has done something seriously wrong in the minds of the voters. And in this case, if Massie goes down, it is that he crossed Donald John Trump.
Okay.
These are the latest betting numbers. And ever since Bill Cassidy lost that election a few days ago, what the betting markets are showing is that Thomas Massie had a 71% chance of winning his primary on May 8th. But today, in less than 10 days, he's down to 44%. Which is insane. That is a huge decrease. And the polls, the actual polls, they're showing that Thomas Massie is about to lose that election. I believe Ed Galrain is up by 9 points or something like that. And the next video that I want to show you is of Thomas Massie, where he appeared on ABC a few days ago. And here's Thomas Massie making the case as to why his election is a referendum on if Israel gets to buy seats in Congress or not. Play clip.
Your vote is a referendum on whether Israel gets to buy seats in Congress. What did you mean by that?
Well, the RJC, AIPAC, and Miriam Adelson and Paul Singer, they're all part of the Israeli lobby, and that's where all the money comes from. And it will be a referendum on foreign policy, whether Israel gets to dictate that by, bullying members of Congress. And I'm the one they haven't been able to bully, so they're putting all the brunt and the force on me. But you can tell that I'm ahead in the polls and they're desperate. That's why they're sending the Secretary of War to my district tomorrow. That's why the president's losing sleep and tweeting about this. That's why AIPAC has dumped another $3 million into my race this weekend. It's because they're panicked and they really haven't been able to gain a lead in this race.
That was Thomas Massie making the case as to why he believes that his election is a referendum on Israel getting to own seats in Congress. And let me know what you think about that claim by Thomas Massie in the comment section. And he has a point. There's a lot of money that's being flowed into these elections, especially his. There's a lot of money coming from pro-Trump groups, coming from pro-Israel groups, and let me know what you think about all this money that's flowing into this race. And here we have Ed Galrain, Thomas Massie's opponent, making the case as to where Thomas Massie is getting his money. Play clip.
To that I say this race is a referendum for sure. It's a referendum to see if coastal elite liberal Democrats can buy a seat in Congress under the guise of a RINO Republican who has served for 14 years and is nicknamed Miss Representative Massie. Our term limits Tom, depending on what county you're here, in my district of 21 counties.
That was Ed Galrain claiming that Thomas Massie is getting his money from liberal Democrats. And let me know what you think about that in the comment section. Do you believe what he's saying? Also, that brings us to the end of this video. Please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.